right, y'all, what's going on? It's Goofy Rex here. Hope you guys are doing well today. So, ISO 8s, they've been out for a couple days now. Some hate them, some like them. I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to all of it, really. But today's video is going to be a quick sort of cheap to play, free to play sort of guide to ISO 8. So I know that there's a lot of kind of, I guess I should say, monetization, that's come with ISO 8s. A lot of people don't necessarily like the offers that are in the store, me including, being kind of one of them. But today I'm hoping to kind of just go through a quick guide that can help, someone who is not willing to spend money in the game to find a way to make sure that you're still able to progress and still be competitive when it comes to ISO 8. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Let's go do it over on the other side. All right, guys, so I have my symbiote Spider-Man here. He's actually the first character that I started to equip some ISO 8s on. So we're actually going to be talking a little bit about, the process that I've gone through here when it comes to equipping ISO 8s, kind of the direction that I would kind of recommend or suggest for everyone to take, if you're not willing to spend money on the specific ISO 8s. So the very first recommended thing that I would do if I were you is that I would only work on your high usage characters. So the high usage characters, and I'm talking about, would specifically be characters that you're using in either arena or in raids. I think that's where you're going to really see the most impact. They're the characters that you're using the most. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to be able to see firsthand on a regular basis. You have 5 arena attacks, you do multiple raid nodes throughout the week, or throughout the day. So you're going to be able to see whether or not these ISOs are actually effective on the specific characters that you have them on. So for me personally, Symbiote Spider-Man is one of the characters that I do use. I've also put some level 1 ISO 8s on Ultron, on Black Bolt, on Invisible Woman, Yo-Yo, Carnage, and Ebony Maw. I think that's who I've had it on so far. I think that's it. Oh, Minerva. I also did put an ISO 8 on Minerva too as well. So I think the first step is just making sure that you're putting it on your high usage characters. For the most part, that's going to be anywhere between 5 or so to 10 different characters that you're going to have. Some of them are going to be overlap. For instance, my Symbiote Spider-Man, I use Symbiote Spider-Man in U7 in raids, and I also use Ultron and Black Bolt in raids, and I also use those same 3 characters in arena too. So there definitely is going to be some overlap, so it actually might help out in terms of how many characters you want to actually put ISO 8s on initially. So that would be kind of like my recommendation, making sure that you're only putting it on the high usage characters. Other than that, you just don't really have the resources to start off with to be putting them on too many characters. So that would just definitely be my recommendation. The first thing, making sure that you're only putting them on the high usage characters. The next recommendation of mine from a cheap to play, free to play standpoint would be for you to only pretty much essentially start off with putting ISOs or putting level 1 ISOs on your characters. Reason being, you're not spending any sort of, ions. You're not spending too many ions when it comes to actually leveling them up. Now this, I've actually gone ahead and I've upgraded my Symbiote Spider-Man here to level 2. I felt quite comfortable with the class that I've selected for him so far as a raider. That's been working for me both in arena, and it's also been working for me as well in raids. So the raider tag tends to work really well. So I would recommend first initially to start putting your level 1s, on your top usage characters and really kind of keeping it there. The reason why I recommend that is you want to kind of get a good baseline feel for what exactly they're doing and how they're doing it, right? You want to see, because what if you start off, you're thinking, okay, Raider will work best on Symbiote Spider-Man, but then you go into your arena or you go into your raids and you start to realize, well, you know what? I actually don't really like how this works, because maybe you have Skirmisher on Carnage, and Carnage doesn't really work the way that you intend for it to. So maybe you want to kind of make a little bit of a quick switch on that. So just level 1 is kind of just like a baseline, and I also am going to make reference to as well. I'll make sure that I put it up in the vid, and also put it in the description, kind of just a tier list, a Reminex tier list that kind of depicts what sort of kind of initial, what sort of classes, ISO classes that you should put on the different characters. So I'll actually reference that here, but level 1, kind of start off there, see how they do with that particular class. At level 1, you can change classes without having to spend any sort of additional money or not any sort of additional ions, to upgrade them. Once you start getting to level 2, if you want to upgrade, if you want to change classes, then you're going to have to start upgrading, level 2. It's not really that costly. It's 5,000 ions to do it. But at the same time, if you're going to have 8 characters, spending 5,000 ions to upgrade different classes when there are, multiple classes available, you probably don't necessarily want to do that. You want to kind of make sure that you're managing this resource effectively. So I would say, start off at level 1, mix and match, do some testing, see where if you're liking the class that they have on them, and then from there, if you do like it, then you can kind of move forward into upgrading the class to level 2 to level 3 once you've selected and found the class that actually works for your particular characters. The next thing that I would mention too as well is just being mindful of your resources and how you're using them. So my recommendation would be to, if you're well, the first thing, we'll talk about cores, right? When it comes to your cores, you're probably already using them for campaign energy, right? So you're using them, to farm. You're using your cores to do refreshes to farm your characters, or you're farming for gear to level up your characters, tier levels. So you want to be kind of wise or smart in regards to how you do use your cores and use those sort of resources. So recommended. Keep in mind too as well that you are going to get 3 80 refreshes or 80 energy refreshes for ISOs throughout the day. You're also going to probably want to use some cores. So I would probably kind of divvy it up, right? Maybe if you normally do 3 refreshes with your cores for campaign energy, maybe only doing maybe like 1 or 2 for your ISO campaign energy. It is going to be a slower process for you to be able to level up, your ISO characters, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're utilizing the resources. Cores are scarce, especially if you're not, getting a lot of them from doing arena battles, depending on where you are, or in general. I mean, you're probably only getting, maybe 100 to 300 cores from arena, and the 300 really, if you're kind of like shooting up to those top levels, that's where you're probably going to be landing when it comes to cores. So you're probably going to want to only use a minimum cores on the ISO energies, or maybe you want to split it up. Maybe one day you do campaign energy, maybe the next day you do it for your ISO energy. It's really kind of up to you how you want to do it, but just thinking about those cores, and also remembering that you do have those 3 free refreshes of 80 throughout the day too as well. So just keep that in mind, and also making sure that you do not keep your ISO energy at full, making sure that you're using all of your ISO energy so that you can also get free energy throughout the day also as well. And then the next thing I will talk about is just kind of a progression point. So I've already made a video about character progression points when it comes to leveling them up, level 65, gear tier 11, 6664, but I would also start to implement, character progression points when it comes to using ISO 8s. I think that's the best way that you're going to have to go about doing it when it comes to you being cheap to play, when it comes to you being free to play. I would 100% make sure that you're implementing progression points for ISO. So let's say that you have 10 characters that you have brought to level 1. You have done the testing already. You figured out this is the class that I want to primarily use on these characters. Then I would say to do them in sequence, right? So I would say to bring them up in sequence. So if you want to bring them to level 2, maybe starting off with a group of them, maybe doing 2 a week, or starting off with 2, getting them to level 2, then stopping there and then going to the next 2, and stopping there, going to the next 2, or starting off with your 5 and bringing them to level 2, and then starting off with the other 5. Like, it depends on how you want to do it, but I would definitely say to implement progression points or ISO progression points for your characters, so that you're not overutilizing your resources, so that you're not over using cores, you're not overusing energy, throughout the day. So focusing on, I would say probably, 2 characters at a time, to level them up with the ISOs will probably be the best way. And then having other characters meet them at those same points, kind of as you move forward. And then really kind of the last thing that I want to mention here is that from a free to play and a cheap to play aspect, you have to learn to be patient. You are playing a different game when you are not spending. And in general, also, just so that you are aware, the offers suck. So it's not really that great anyway. So it's not as if the whales are going to have this massive progression by buying these offers. They're trash. So you really ultimately at the end of the day, you're not really going to be that far behind. But also understand that if people are willing to spend in this game and you are not willing to spend in this game, that you are 100% going to have to play a different game than they are. You're going to have to manage your resources efficiently. You're going to have to implement progression points. You're going to have to use strategy, getting them to level 1, testing it out before you level the characters up any further than that. You're going to have to play this game a little bit differently, which means that you're also going to need to do planning, but mostly importantly, you're going to have to implement, or you're going to have to be patient when it comes to what you're doing. So I'm hoping that this is going to be, a quick guide and a helpful tip for you guys. Obviously, if you have any questions about anything, please make sure that you do leave a comment down below. Also, if you like this video, make sure that you hit the like button. If you also haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure that you also do that too as well. But once again, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Be blessed and be safe.